things. I got my Master's of Divinity in a Presbyterian denomination, a small one. And so I was in the pastoral ministry for years. Then from there, I have done several things at different kinds of ministries and so forth, but usually ministry related. I had my first paranormal experience 12 years ago when I went through a painful divorce, and I say that because they tend to be tied with kind of traumatic events sometimes, but that may come up later or not. But later on, it wasn't really until about 4 years ago when I was watching TV after convalescing from some heart problems. I was watching a whole lot of TV, and I became aware of two things. Number one, how prevalent the presence of ghosts were on television. Every educational channel that you could think of had ghost-related shows. Now, there's other supernatural type things too, like vampires and so on, but it was especially prevalent when it came to earthbound spirits, trapped spirits, or ghosts.
Now, did you attribute that to something changing here, in the world, or was it just due to the prevalence of so many cable channels and?
No, it's just a cultural thing, and just in the span of 15 years, I made two basic observations that I'll make, and that led me to writing a book. The first one is just how prevalent the belief in ghosts has become in America. 15 years ago, it was like a lunatic fringe type belief. That's not making a judgment on anybody who believed that 15 years ago. It's just that it was very rare. But in the span of 15 years, and it's pretty well accepted amongst everybody, in just 15 years, it has exploded like a nuclear explosion to where now at least 1/3 of Americans, probably more like 1/2 or more, believe that when at least some people die, their souls get trapped here. So that is a huge thing. Now, the second observation I made was that there were some very serious, significant issues that were involved with that. Some beliefs are more, innocuous, doesn't really make any different type things, how many people believe in it or whatever. But this really does have some serious consequences to it. In fact, I have a ministry that has spun off from the publishing of my book because of how serious it is. People who are dealing with issues. Yeah.
Right. Do you think that might be a part of the people's general beliefs? You think it might be a part of more or less a predictive programming from television? And I think you could see that also with a rise of people believing more and more about UFOs, right? And paranormal in general, right? I mean,
yes, it's true. Yeah, the paranormal activity in general has increased. You asked the question about the Beatles. Did they reflect culture, or did they reflect it, or did they impact it? And it was both, of course. And that's what's happening with, like, the show Ghost Hunters, which is on tonight right now, by the way. That was the first one. Jay and Grant, they're on right now. And that was the first huge one. It came on about 9 years ago.
Now, do you think
Ghost Adventures and all this? So,
Mark, do you think that the belief system has actually changed, or do you think it's just easier to get in touch with people because of the growth of the internet and cable television?
No. Well, I think it is. I think there is more ease of communication for sure, but this is definite change in beliefs. The spiritual landscape of America has changed for sure. What happened in the '60s was that I guess you could say the New Age was conceived in the '60s when we were younger, or I was younger anyway. I'm 55 now, about 56. But it was born in the late '90s. So it had a long gestation period, and during that time, all kinds of New Age stuff. But one of those is very top, I would say, is the belief of ghosts, which is a radical transformation, change in the spiritual landscape. A lot of people have given up on classical Christianity, religion, in quotes, Because the God of Christianity, which I represent as the president minister, he's invisible. So what do you think happens, and this happened to me, y'all, is I'm sitting here on TV, and other people, but they've given up on God. They really see on TV, real supernatural activity that's happening, things moving, shadow figures and stuff. And all this stuff is not just play. I don't know if you guys have seen the shows that I'm talking about, but we're talking about real supernatural activity on television. Now, people have this real visceral desire for spiritual reality, and they see that, and they see it as proof, for continuity of life after death. So that makes the notion of ghosts is very, very, very attractive.
So they're filling the television and the shows are filling a spiritual void in those people, right? That's kind of what you're saying,
It's the immediate satisfaction of being able to actually to get some sort of physical feedback.
Yeah, it's a very electric experience to be able to see something that we long for.
Not rely on faith, but actually have some evidence.
Right.
Yeah, some evidence of belief after death, that there's constant, and we're not annihilated. And so for many people, the belief in ghosts has kind of become sort of an informal foundation for their spirituality. And just in the fact that it gives them two things. Number one, evidence, empirical data, or evidence that there's, it seems to give evidence, that in their reasoning anyway, that there is life after death, and that doesn't make any difference what you believe in order to go to heaven or to carry on, to cross over. Now, those obviously are very significant issues there. I would question whether or not it gives evidence of necessarily of life after death, because it all depends on what it is that we're seeing. Now, of course, I believe in life after death. But the thing is, the biggest question that I hope gets answered tonight is this: what is it that we're seeing on these shows and that tens of millions of Americans in their homes are really seeing?
Right.
They really are seeing shadow figures, not just out of the corner of their eye, but straight on.
Now, when you say shadow figure,
can I say this one more thing? I bet that almost everyone who's listening right now, either themselves knows their own house has activity, or knows somebody whose house has activity, or knows someone who knows someone whose house has activity. Almost everyone, with that proviso, almost. That's how common it has gotten, and there's a reason why this activity has increased.
So you think the ghosts are actually more prevalent, or the spirits are more prevalent?
Yes. Well,
okay.
The activity is more prevalent. Yes.
The activity.
Yes,
okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I got a question now, and this is kind of just gonna get into it a little bit later. So I mean, I'm kind of believe that we are getting like close to the end of days, right? Kind of based on the just the way society is now, and you know how the Bible says, so shall it be in the end of days, as it was in the time of Noah.
Well,
right?
If you think that's the case, do you think there might be increase of demonic activity at the end?
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Is do you think it's been? Was there a lull? Has it always been kind of there under the surface, or is this?
It's always been there. Going back to the garden, we go back all the way to Genesis 3, and we see, of course, the entry of Satan through the serpent, who was identified as Satan later in the Bible. The serpent who tempted Adam and Eve is the Satan. Demons are fallen angels. Satan would be what used to be Lucifer. So the point being is that they've always been there. Ephesians 6 says that there's always been spiritual warfare, but when Jesus was in this flesh, there was intensified demonic activity, because everywhere he went, he was casting demons at people because Satan was trying to destroy him. So the point being is that I'm with you. I think that we are very likely entering towards the end of days, and when that happens, Satan knows it's happening, and he's going to intensify his activity. Regardless, there's another reason he's going to explain it, and that is because America is now in a post-Christian era. We have turned our back on truth, and when you do that and become more pagan, that opens the doors to the open doors that once you open them, you have a wide awake nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
That's kind of funny that you said that, because that's actually when I was younger, I talked to an occultist, and it was a guy. He came and talked to us at school in a gifted program kind of thing, and he was a
not to brag
or a wizard, right? Not to brag. And I told John this the other day, is he kind of gave us the warning: you don't want to do things like this not knowing, because you don't want to. Basically, he kind of made it sound like you don't want to prank phone call or invite somebody that you don't know into your home. But I think that's kind of what you're saying is you don't. These are things that you do not want to fool around with, these entities.
No, there are doors that are meant to stay closed. And what has happened is that these TV shows have given people tools unwittingly to open doors that allow the demonic in. And that has been the perfect deception that has been used in the guise of ghosts. Because when you start speaking to what you think is Aunt Matilda, I could give you all kinds of examples. You know, like that one I sent to you, John, today.
Right.
The family, the house I had to cleanse, they initially thought it was a little girl spirit. Now, I can show you, there is no shortage of empirical data that supernatural activity is happening. There's tens of thousands of hours of EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, or spirit voices.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of movies, videos of shadow figures, which, it's just usually humanoid in shape, but just black, totally black.
Right. Mark, could you explain for our listeners and us, what's the difference between, say, like a ghost, a demon, a poltergeist, the shadowy figures you mentioned? What is each one of those different?
Yeah, I will. There's basically two categorizations. Okay, in the supernatural realm, you have angels and you have demons. In the Bible, we're told that before humans were created, that Lucifer, who was one of the archangels, because of pride, rebelled against God, and one-third of the angels rebelled. They immediately were punished by God, kicked out, became demons, fallen angels, and they are pure evil. Pure evil. So what you have then is in the invisible or paranormal or supernatural realm, you have angels and demons on earth, those two. Now, what you have also, we have a invisible soul. Now, I contend that when we die, we immediately go to judgment, and we are sent to our eternal place, wherever the Lord is, either heaven or hell. Now, what the paranormal community says is that that's what ghosts are, is that they're human spirits. And one thing I want to clarify is that humans do not become demons. Humans do not become angels when they die. There are two different categories in the Bible. In
so,
fact,
Mark, are demons
okay.
Are demons and angels already set, or are there more coming into being a long time?
No, that's set. There's no more being created at all.
Okay, so they exist. They exist. They're not going away, and there's no more coming.
Right. So like energy.
Okay.
Try and get a little bit in there.
So, hey, Mark. Kind of like, okay. So John asked the kind of categories. Now, how do the demons and angels, how do they figure into the Nephilim and the giants in the Bible? How does that?
Guys, let me back up for a second. The poltergeist, that's according to the paranormal community, they are just supposed to become at first it was thought to be human origin ghost, but our country has become so psychologized that they believe that it's a unconscious transfer of energy that causes telekinesis and so forth. And so that usually is kind of the young person who is having trauma, and so they cause activity, things moving around, things flying across the room, that sort of activity, and so that's what a poltergeist